I'm on. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at Talk Talk Live. I'm back. Yes, indeed. Now, the reason why I wear the shirt is because, again, my team has won today. So, first place and top of the league. Anyways, but yes. Here we go. How was your weekend? Hope everything went well. Hello, everyone. We are back with Talk Talk Live. We're just talking about a more serious topic tonight. We're live on IG and YouTube. Let me adjust my microphone here. Hello. There you go. Yes, live on YouTube today. We're talking about the cost of living in the city of Toronto. Let me back this out. Let me just go this way with it, so I can further see myself. Anyways, yes. Talk Talk Live is back live. Hello, everyone, and hope you had a great weekend. I was out with the gentlemen yesterday, demand them as they call them. Yesterday, and it was a pretty good bonding experience. I truly enjoyed it. Thanks for those gentlemen who joined me yesterday. John, again, GoldenEye, Jason, and everyone who was involved. It was a great night, and truly enjoyed it. But we are back live on Talk Talk Live. Yes, and a little bit worse for wear, but again. Getting all this stuff together in one stream is something. But again, we're going to talk about the cost of living tonight. The cost of living in any big city, in particular Toronto, the biggest city in Canada. So, especially with inflation in mind, it is a problem. It is a big problem for many in this city to live in this city. And we're just going to talk about any sort of taxes, any sort of things that are available here. Again, thank you for joining us on Talk Talk Live on IG and YouTube. We are going to get to it and do it, but let me see. Oh, yeah, well, the hair is a bit off again. But again, we're just going to continue with it. Now, here's the deal. And we're good on stream here on YouTube. If you want to join on YouTube, Talk Talk Live is the channel there. And again, I am further making changes to the channel that will make it more consumable. So again, we're undergoing changes as we speak. So give us time, and I look forward to you keeping your interest here. You could have been anywhere, but you're here with me tonight, or today, or whenever you are viewing this on Talk Talk Live. So thank you for joining me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into just a bit of some expenses in terms of Talk Talk Live. We're going to watch a little film first, 2-3 minutes, and again, we're going to talk about, and we're going to sequence that with what we are doing here today in terms of a study, in terms of what it costs to live in this city, and some of the bigger costs in terms of living in any big city, really, and if you should be living in a big city in the first place. I know there's a huge attraction to all the amenities, all the all the bells and whistles, public transit, nightlife, being close and near to all the things that near to business as well, and also just in terms of lifestyle, just being in the city brings. But there are pitfalls, there are pratfalls in living in the city, and for the most part now, living in this city, any big city, is expensive, and it's something that all must realize. And Maurice, hello to you. Shout out to you, my friend, for joining me on Talk Talk Live. And we are building it as we fly it, and there are steady improvements to come here. Watch out, and looking forward to your patronage. Now, let me just move this a little further this way here at the camera. There we go. On the camera to catch me a bit better. Oh, wow. Okay, Elliot, that went relatively well. So let's leave it there. As I move over and catch you all on Talk Talk Live here. So Chanel has just joined me. Hello, Chanel. How are you? So let's talk about living in the city, and on this Sunday night. I'm going to leave it short and sweet because I know you guys you are busy, as am I, especially with things to do on a Sunday night and recovering for the work week tomorrow. I hope you had a great weekend again, as always. So let's get into it. Now, just going to get into my browser here. Yes. Hold on a second. All right. Luckily, I have a touch screen that allows me to go Oh, what happened there? Oh yeah. Okay, let's go full cam again. What is going on here, Elliot? Let's see here. Yes, indeed. So let's get into it right now. We're gonna play a little short video here. We're reconnecting here. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, why is it reconnecting? We have a bad feed here again. I have to get onto that in a second. But anyways, we're still live on YouTube. Hi there, Chanel. How are you? We're just going through some technical issues for some reason. I don't know why, but we need to sort these out. Yes, indeed. Wow. I don't know what happened there. Wow, that's a bit of a short. Anyways, let's move on to this video that we have here on YouTube. And we're trying to get up on YouTube anyways in terms of the browser and such. Let me see here. Yes, indeed. Right. Let's go, Elliot. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's play this video on YouTube here. And we'll come back to what it costs living in the city of Toronto, starting right now. Oh, wow. Okay. Seems that has stalled for a little bit. Okay, now you're going. Okay. Okay, we're ready to go here? Yes, indeed. Huh. Well, sorry about that, my people. Everybody's joining in. Hello, hello, Eyewitness. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Talk Live. We're just going to get into this. We have a little technical issue. Unfortunately. I don't know what happened there. It seems well, let me do this way. Let's go this way. There we go. Let's talk about food. Let's talk about food in this city. Let's talk about how much it costs for a daily amount of food to start with. Now, food is now a rising cost in the city right now. It should, well, you can and listen, if you're on YouTube, if you're on IG, you can talk to me on Talk Talk Live as to your food expenses. Just list them down there right now. I mean, if you have a family, it's usually running about $300 to $400. But if you are a single person, let's say $100 to $200 for a bag of food per week. You have to budget on, which is pretty expensive depending on where you get it. I mean, if you can go to a discount store for food. Other than a supermarket, it may be a bit less, but we're looking at about $100 to $200 for food for a single person, up to $400 for a family of 3 or 4 or 5, which is a problem in and of itself. Now, again, trying to see if I can get myself back on the Streamlabs here. Okay, there we go. And yes, indeed. Okay, we're gonna go back live again, see if we can go confirm live. Indeed, and go. Yes, indeed. I'm just connecting right back live on YouTube, and there we go. That should do it. Okay, we're back live on YouTube. There we go. Sorry about that. Sorry for that little delay there. Now, if you're encountering food costs about $300 to $400 a month, that's a lot, especially for those who are earning about $50,000 to $60,000 a year, about a median cost of I mean, the median income that's in this city, which is in and of itself is a pretty, which in and of itself is pretty, which is pretty expensive in and of itself, and I don't know what your cost is, but to me that's very expensive. So, I try to cut costs myself by going to, fruit stores that are, that offer, discounted items. In terms of fruit, there's one up the road, or going to a farmer's market in and of itself. But again, you're looking at spending about $300, $400 for food in and of itself, which is problematic, to say the least. So I look out for that. I look out for areas where you can use coupons. I use coupons regularly myself, and I'm not as well done as some coupon clippers in this amongst you. I don't know how many coupons that you may use yourselves, but it can be. I mean, some people are can get their stuff discounted for free, but again, you have to spend hours at a time using coupons in order to make a way for yourself in any supermarket, and you're taking up a lot of line space. To say the least. I don't know if you're around any coupon clippers in any line, but that could be a bit of a bit of a disturbance, slightly. But again, if you can do it, then it is well worth it that you can do it, and you know what I mean. So again, I would definitely. I would definitely look into that myself as to any sort of thing. I'm just playing around with the YouTube here, my people. Now, again, so we have food. So let's go to the next possible projection, which you can see on my YouTube here, which is housing. Housing is a huge expense for many people. Some people, if you can live in a condo, if you can live in a basement apartment, if you can live, or you can live in a home. If you're paying for a mortgage, you're looking at about $7,000 per month. If you in terms of a mortgage, which is a lot, especially living in this town. Or if you can afford a basement apartment, you're looking at about $3,000-$4,000, which it hits a lot of people. It does. Mortgages and housing costs are usually the biggest cost that you can have in terms of any place that you live in, and that can be an issue. So yes, I was trying to get it up on the screen. It's not happening, so we're just going to go on as is. And I cut myself for some reason. So for those who, those of you who are involved in any sort of housing issues, I totally sympathize with you and understand, because it is expensive to live in the city. Rent is you're looking at about $3,000-$4,000, which is a huge expense to any person's budget, let alone food, and let alone any sort of taxes, which we'll get to next. And it is a definite problem for anybody living in this city, and who are single living in this city, let alone if you have any children or have any family. So it is something that, so you're looking at, for cost of food, for cost of housing, about $4,000. No, $3,500. We'll say $3,500. Let's call it $3,500 even for a cost of food and housing, which is a big expense to anyone who is living in a basement apartment, or living in an apartment, living in a flat, or living in a home, which is so it's pretty much par for the course that if you're living in any of these different places, you need to be involved in some sort of house share, or living with your significant other. That there's no two ways around it, no two ways about it, unless you have family who can support you. So housing costs, food costs, you're talking about $3,500. Medical, luckily with medical, that we live in an environment here in Toronto in which you have OHIP, because in many places like the United States and many other states around the world, you don't have those. You do have to pay a cost for medical expenses, especially so outside of prescriptions, you're pretty much covered in terms of immediate medical care, which you pay in through your taxes. So that is a relief to many, and I'm sure to you, living in such an environment. Even though it is expensive to live here, we pay into a system that allows for medical expenses, most medical expenses, to be covered outside of elective surgery. So there's not much of a need for medical expenses, maybe prescriptions. If you have prescription coverage through your work, then that makes that job that much easier. So I would say a median amount of money is needed in order to cover medical expenses, maybe about $100, $150. Change my mind. Hey, come to me on Talk Talk Live and see if indeed that is indeed not the case. I would definitely welcome your judgment here and your thought process on that. Or if you have any sick kids who have to deal with electric service, then again, I sympathize with you, because that would be an added expense in itself. But in terms of a single person of average age and of good health, then your medical expenses aren't as much as they can be. Definitely in this environment, living in a province of Ontario, in the country of Canada, where your medical expenses, and in most of the developed world, where medical expenses are covered by the government, which is a good thing. The only place that it is a problem is in a place such as the United States, where you have an issue in terms of turning around, turning around and paying for medical expenses. So hold on one second. I'm going to be right back, right here, and we're going to see about getting this YouTube thing sorted out. Just 1 second, please. 1 second. Yeah.
Oh, you're filming.
Yeah, it is all set up. I am back, my friends on YouTube. Sorry about that. That's all right. No, nobody's here. We'll edit this out. So what is happening here is, like, I can't seem to get it here. Yes. Okay. Why is this thing not going here?
My head is on the screen.
Yeah, no worries.
Video cap? No, the window capture not working.
Why is the window capture not working?
Well,
Oh, the window cap. There we go. The window capture? Which button is that?
window capture.
Oh, that one on the bottom. Why was it not working before?
Because every time you start a new browser, you have to redo the window capture.
Right.
Because it won't capture the window, as the name implies.
Hello, we're back on Talk Talk Live. Thank you for joining us here. We have gotten through the technical difficulty, the technical issue now, and we are going to go back to it. Yes, indeed. There we go. Talk Talk Live is live, and it's back, and we have our budget on YouTube. Well, again, our facsimile budget, anyways. So we were just going through. We just went through food, housing, medical. Now we're going through transportation. And for myself, going in and out of the city and going around the city, I'm costing around. Luckily, I have public transit, which I use daily, and usually I would say about $100 a month for that. So depending on where you are, they could vary. I would say let's go up about $100 for public transit. So let's say $200 a month, and also, if you look and see, you say a transportation cost of about, say $200 for public transit. Say private transit, if you're driving a car all day, then that can shoot way up. Especially if you're driving in a city daily and you need to drive around anywhere for a certain time, especially with these gas prices, you're looking at about maybe $300 to $400 a month. So depending on where, so let's call it even. Let's say $300 a month for transportation. Simply, if you use a combination of car and of public transit. If you're in the city using public transit, even better. But if you take a car to get around, then that's even more. So, so any sort of cost of housing, medical, transportation, we've already covered those. Tax, we've covered those. Now the major one is taxes. Any sort of city taxes, any sort of municipal taxes that one may encounter. That can go as high as $2,000 to $3,000. Any sort of, depending on the city you live in, it could be $2,000 to $3,000 any sort of year, which is an issue, or any sort of budget. So I would say about $3,500 per year. Call me out on it if you are live on Talk live on IG and YouTube. And again, there we go. We'll go back here on this one here. Yes, okay, we're good. And yes. So again, if you're live on Talk live, do let me know on IG and YouTube. We are live. And again, in terms of taxes, you're looking at about $2,000 to $3,000. Maybe every 6 months. You never know, depending on where you live. So, but I would say let's go conservative. Let's go $25,000 to $3,000 per expense. So that is an issue that we need to get to grips with. There we go. We need to get to grips with. So again, I am one to think that is a huge expense. If you're talking taxes, maybe and if you talk about income tax, if you talk about your own personal income tax, if you're running a business, corporate taxes that you may have, but those are different business expenses. We're talking about, simply put, our own particular taxes within a city. So here we go. Yes, I just want to get the projector back in there. So any sort of business expense that one may have, that is an issue. That is a problem that we need to that needs to be come to grips with. So again, you're looking at about $3,000. So let's say overall, in terms of taxes, you're looking at, let me just do this quickly here. Yes. So let's do this. So in turn, and it doesn't allow for a lot of savings. If you have a lot of savings, if you're earning about over $50,000 to $60,000 a year, then that is over $50,000 $60,000 a year. Then you can save for a house. Then you can save for a home. Then you can meet most of these expenses. But if you're under that amount, then it's a problem. It's a huge problem, and and you have to make certain sacrifices in order to live, especially if you have kids. So in thinking about it, you're looking at, in terms of taxes. So you're saying $3,500 a month. So we break that down to 12. So that's about. Let me just see here. Let's just get a calculator out here. Let me just see if I can get a calculator out. Yes, indeed. Calculator. Here we go. Perfect. So we got a calculator out. And let's do it that way. So we have, indeed, now I got my calculator out. Now hopefully they'll be able to let me punch buttons here. Indeed. So we're saying about $4,000 for food. There we go. So we say, let's do a calculation. So we're saying around, what now? Food is about food is about how much a month? We said for food is about $300 a month. Let's say $300 for food. $300 for food plus, let's say around. We said housing. We were looking at about what in terms of a mortgage. Let's say let's go on a rent. We won't go on a mortgage so much because we're looking at a single person or single people living in Toronto. So let's say about a rent's about $2,000 to $3,000. So we go $3,000 a month plus. Let's say any sort of medical expenses, which is, well, we'll call it relatively, unless you are in need. If you're relatively healthy and not in need of any sort of medical expenses. We'll call it a zero for now, but if you are in need of any sort of health care, then we can go say about 150. Let me see here. You don't need this one here. You can cut that out of there. So I would say for medical expenses, if you're relatively healthy, as the government is looking after you in a one payer system, then we're multiple payer. Is it multiple payer? I think it's multiple payer. Yes, multi-payer. That's it. So universal health care system. Then we are looking at about maybe $150 a year, if that. So we'll call it relatively maybe $15 to $20. So let's say let's say $30. A conservative sum, right? So let's see. So you got that. So you got $300. So transportation, we said about $300 to $400 for that. So $400 plus any sort of so say $3,400 plus any sort of incidentals for any sort of incidentals. We'll call another incidentals. So we're looking at about $500 in case. So we'll call it savings, really, if you're saving for a rainy day. So let's say you would like to save about $500 a month. So we say $3,500. Any sort of taxes. So we say $3,500. Let's say per month we say $500 a month in taxes. So say $6,500. And any sort of savings that you may accrue. So it's about, let's say about $6,500. Say about $3,000. Well, you won't be able to save much. So let's say if we can save $1,000. If we can save $1,000 a month, that would be great. So that would equal to $4,000 a month. Let's call it even $4,000 a month to live in the city of Toronto. To anyone who lives in the city of Toronto in at about $4,000 a month, it is an absolute nightmare. Thinking about it, $4,000 a month if you take into account food, housing, medical, transportation, and savings and taxes. That is a huge sum. That is a really, really huge sum for most families in this city to take into account. Now, if you have the salary and the wherewithal to allow for this, that can cover $4,000 a month in terms of expenses to live in a city. So be it, especially in a city to live in a city of this amount. But to most people, that is a impossibility. So if you're earning an average salary of about $3,500 to $35,000 to $40,000 a month, that is a big expense to go $4,000 a year. You're gonna that is literally running you into a near poverty level in order to succeed. So you're gonna need a lot of coverage from the government in order to succeed in life, and that is very tight for many people. So what do we do about this? What do we how do we see this through? How do we get through this sort of troublesome time? Well, you have a few choices there. I mean, you can cut and contrive and live with family until you have enough savings in order to get out there on your own, which could be for a longer period of time, or you can get yourself a better job that allows you to pay for these expenses, that $4,000 a month. Now, I know in many of the bigger cities that is a bigger expense. So if you're living in London, which I did, if you're living in New York City, if you're living in Paris, if you're living in any of the major cities of the world, if you're living in Tokyo, that could be up to $6,000 a month. 5-6, so you can double and triple that. Because again, to live in any sort of prime real estate or prime real estate area or any big city, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you more than it would be living in the city of Toronto, which is problematic. It's very, very problematic. But we're dealing with the city of Toronto, which is a relatively big city, but it's on the rise, and it's costing people out of, and the costs are moving out of control. But for a lot of people, I would say maybe the best thing for one to do is to move out of the city itself. And to some, it may be a bit unbearable to move out into a less costly area of the of your city, of your state, of your province, of your area in order to move forward. But it's unmistakable likeness of some. I know I was reminded a couple days ago, actually, on one of our prior lives, that they have to move maybe to Saskatchewan, maybe move out of province, maybe move out of state, maybe move out of city to some less expensive area of the territory you're in, of the country you're in, especially in the developed world. There are very little big cities that are relatively inexpensive anymore. That's a fact. That's a fact. And if you can't afford to live in a big city anytime soon, then it may be time to think of moving on to some place that'll allow for your expenses to be covered. But and the good thing about it is, now that we're living in a different sort of economy where people can work and live outside of their place of outside of the city where their home office is, or where their office is, that may be a possibility. I know my sister, who works in the financial industry. One of her colleagues lives in Nova Scotia, yet works in Toronto virtually, and it works out fine for her. But again, you have to have a lot of tenure within your office in order to do that. For a lot, for those who are just starting out, that may be an impossibility. So again, it depends on where your work is. If you can find work that is out of town, maybe that's a better place to be right now. Because again, cities are not getting less expensive, they're getting more expensive. And if you don't have family to whom there are different real estate options for you that allow you to live relatively rent-free or below market rents, below the $4,000 it takes per month to live in this city that we've calculated now, then you may have to live outside of that city. And that's what a lot of people are doing these days. They're commuting into the city, and in order to make a living. I know of a few friends who live out in Innisfil, or live in Barrie, if you're in Toronto, that is, in order to continue a certain lifestyle, and they are renting. Think about it that way. They are renting in outside of the city in order to live, which is a problem for many, especially if you have $4,000 a month in expenses to deal with, or relatively in that range. So if you say, let's call it $3,000 to $4,000, so you can go in that range. If it takes a lot more expense for you to live in the city, do let me on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. We are live tonight, and it is. I'm just moving over here for a second, and so I can see you both. But again, it's a problem. It's a huge problem, and it may take for you to move out of the city in order to enjoy a lifestyle that is relatively risk-free from being considered bankrupt. And that is not funny. That is definitely not funny. But there is also the option of living with friends, living with relatives, living at home. Let's call a spade, people. A lot of people, especially after COVID, especially after and the near recession that we're living right now, have moved back home. A lot of 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds have moved back home in order to live, in order to meet any sort of expenses that they may have. This is a problem. This is a huge problem that many generations previous, like the baby boomer generation, never really had to feel this. It's now the Gen Xers and the millennials who are really feeling this, who are really feeling this. And it's a problem. It's $4,000 a month in expenses, and we need to, and living at home is now an option. It was definitely an option during our last recession crisis, in which the SNLs went bankrupt. A lot of people had to move home temporarily in order to get themselves back on their feet, or to move there full time in order to help their elderly parents. A lot of people are doing that these days. They really are. They really, really are. And I don't think there's so much a stigma anymore to living at home. I don't think there's a stigma that there used to be in terms of living at home. Now, again, if you have accommodations that and if you have a home that allows for you to meet your expenses, all the power to you to move out, all the power to you to moving out on your own. But if you're living in a city, I don't think it's and if you can't meet the expenses, the $4,000 a month it takes in order to live in a city, I don't see it as being a problem for you living at home for any considerable amount of time, if your parents allow, that is. I know for a lot of people there's a stigmatization of living at home, but it may be such that that's what's necessary for a temporary situation. But again, if living at home is not an option, if you don't like living at home, if you don't like the stigma, it may be time for you to consider living among not just friends, or getting back into sort of that university sort of affair where you're living with people, living among students, or living among friends, amongst yourselves, but also, hey Troy, how you doing? Also, living in accommodations that would allow for a group of people, maybe not your friends, but a group of people to live together in one household, just to meet bills. They may not be your friends. They may not, but again, it takes that amount of people in order to get a room in a house that allows for you to to meet to make ends meet, until you find maybe that's someone who would be able to help you out with those bills. A lot of people are doing that these days. A lot of people are coupling with strangers, for lack of a better word, with strangers in order to meet expenses, those $4,000 a month in expenses that you may need. And now that could be up, that could be down, but I would say on average it's about $4,000 a month. And that's no joke. Now, again, the biggest expense being rent, being a mortgage. Now, a mortgage, you would be expected to pay more, but again, if you're paying a mortgage, you are definitely earning more than average or above average earning. You're looking into the upper 5-figure and lower 6-figure amounts. That's when you can indeed meet a mortgage. But in this city, unless you are involved, let's call a spade a spade. Unless you are married, or unless you were able to save a lot in order to live on your own and to purchase real estate on your own, that could be a problem. Unless you're married, or you have a lot of money to whom you can earn, you can live rent-free. Well, rent-free. I mean, pay a mortgage or pay rent on your own, then it's going to be a problem. So unless you're earning about $60,000 to $70,000 a year, then it's going to be a problem living on your own. Let's face facts. Let's call it that. $60,000 to $70,000 is what it's going to take to live in this city of Toronto. $60,000 to $70,000 and up, in order to meet your bills, in order to have a social life, in order to save, in order to pay for transportation, in order to pay for food. But here's the thing, and that's what I've been noticing a lot, is a lot of people can't cook these days, which is, a bit shameless. It's a lot of people can't cook these days, and that's a problem. I mean, I saw this one video. Actually, let's get to that video now that we have it here on Talk Live. Ha ha ha. Yes, indeed. We made the calculations here. Now, let's see if you can afford to live. Let's see here. Yes, indeed. Now, this is taken from. There we go. Now, this is taken from 5 years ago. But, oh, shoot. How did that get there? Let's move that back. I thought that was not. Oh, that's not it. Anyways, why would that be there? My goodness. Anyways, but I saw a documentary. Now that I can't see it here, which makes it all the more frustrating. But again, I thought that I would be able to get it, but it's not happening right now. But hold on, let me see if I can do this. Here we go. Yes. Yes, indeed. Okay, so, yes. I wanted this one. Let me see if that can work here. Thank you for joining me on Talk to Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Hello, everyone. We're just talking about the cost of living and living in the city. And we have estimated it's about $4,000 a month in which to live in the city. And we're just going to get to a video of a lady who, well, this is 5 years ago now. This is about 5 years ago this video was taken. And why is I don't know what the internet, anyways. Wow. Anyway, so any sort of bills, and we haven't even talking about bills. Let's knock that up a notch. I haven't even talked about any bills that may come in from month to month, like telephone, like hydro. Well, we have taxes. Taxes are hydro and this sort of thing. So, again, yes, indeed, these are all bills that one must pay. So I would say, yeah, well, let's bump that about $500 more. So maybe $4,500. Let's call it $4,500. Yeah. So if you're talking about telephone, if you're talking about insurance, we haven't even talked about car insurance. We haven't even talked about car payments. We haven't talked about any of these sort of things. So you know what? That is proven to be an issue. So why are we doing this? Let's just exit the page for some reason. So unfortunate. Yes, that my internet is down. Actually, it's supposed to be putting up a telephone in my neighborhood this week, which may hopefully help this problem out, because we're getting horrible internet service for some reason. Let me see if I can do it again. Sorry about this, guys. For some reason, it doesn't seem to want to load up and load in and load out. But that is the way things are. The way things are these days. But again, so we're looking at about let's bump that up a notch. Let's bump that up a notch. So we're looking at about, if you're talking about telephone, if you're talking about car insurance, if you take a car, if you have any car payments, which may be maybe $400 to $500 a month. Let's take it up a notch. Yeah, because we haven't even made any sort of cost of those. So any sort of taxes and such, I would say $5,000 a month. Let's go $5,000. Let's go $5,000. Who can afford to pay $5,000 a month in car insurance? Well, not car insurance. In any sort of expense that you may have in terms of telephone bills, in terms of car insurance, in terms of any, let me see, in terms of car payments, in terms of any sort of big expense like that. I mean, it can get expensive. It can get up to $5,000. Let's call a spade a spade. It can be more $5,000. So move to so Troy Brown saying move to Alberta where it's more affordable. Yes, I agree. You know what? It may be much more affordable to move somewhere out in Florida. Florida. It may be much more inexpensive to move to a place such as that in, I don't know why this is playing. That's what I didn't want to know. It may be much less expensive to move to a place like Alberta, a place like Saskatchewan. I know one of my viewers back the other day, thank you for the comment there, Troy. I know one viewer back in the day was, back in the day. Last week, sorry. Let me say back in the day. Says she may move to Saskatchewan because the cost of living there is so much cheaper. And do I agree with her? No. I know a lot of people who moved out east. They moved out to Nova Scotia. They moved out to Prince Edward Island. They moved out to Newfoundland because it's because living in the province of Ontario, or even moving to Northern Ontario, because a lot of people have decided that living in Toronto is too expensive, way too expensive. Some people have moved out to the GTA, outside the GTA, but even that is coming at a cost now. If you're moving out to Niagara Falls, if you're moving out to if you're moving out to Niagara Falls, and moving out to Timmins, moving out to Sudbury, if you're moving out to any of these sort of places, it is a problem. It is a huge, huge problem living in the city. And, you know, with rent and all the expenses of paying about $4,000 to $5,000 a month in expenses, who can live like that? Extrapolate that over a year, you're looking at maybe what, $50,000-$60,000 a year in order to live. Think about it. You have about $50,000 to $60,000 a year in order to live in this city, and that's a problem. Hello to Dimples. Hello to Leslie Best. It may be a problem to, you know, get involved in that, and not a lot of people want to be involved with that. So a lot of people have decided to move away. Some people moved to Niagara Falls. Some people have moved out to Alberta, as Troy has mentioned. Some people have moved out to Nova Scotia. Some people moved out to Newfoundland. Some people moved out. Period. And this not only for here, but for any big city. I mean, the one advantage that the United States has is that there are big cities everywhere. So you can afford to, if you miss one place, you can go to, like, if you can't afford New York, you can go to Dallas. If you can't afford to Dallas, you can go to, you know, Detroit. If you can't go to Detroit, there are big cities in every state. So moving away isn't so much a huge deal as it is here, where everybody is congested in the three big centers: Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. But maybe it's time now for Canada that new big centers are created, such as in Saskatoon, such as in Halifax, such as is in Charlottetown, or such as in St. John's. It's time. Troy mentions work from home, make Ontario money, but just pay Alberta bills. Yeah. There's that too. Troy's found a loophole. Troy, you're the loophole man. Indeed. But that's what. But again, as I was saying, there's a lot of people are doing that. Some people are living in a certain province, yet working in quote unquote Ontario. There's this one, as I said, one colleague of my sister's lives in Nova Scotia, but works for her home office is in Toronto. And a lot of people are doing that. People are moving out of the city and yet have a job that allows them to work online to pay bills, which is which is in and of itself a huge problem, because again, it's $4,000 to $5,000 a month in bills. Literally, $4,000 to $5,000 a month. If you can get it any less than that, kudos to you. Kudos to you, because again, those are huge expenses. But again, as I was saying, in order to live relatively comfortably in the city, you need about at least a $60,000 to $70,000 job. You do. You need a $60,000 to $70,000 job to live relatively comfortably, and to be safe. To be really safe, you need a six-figure job. That was, and to like correlate that over a certain amount of time. Let me see if I can get this done here. To correlate that over a certain amount of time, that used to be this. It took you six figures about 20 years ago to live in London, to live in a place like Paris, to live in a place like New York. That is not the problem anymore. Now it takes you at least $150,000, if not $200,000, to live comfortably in those big cities. So it's about half of that. I would say $70,000 to live comfortably here, but I would go up to $100,000. And again, getting back to my prior knowledge, who earns $100,000 a year in a city? Who? I would say the top 10%, top 5%. So unless you are booed up, unless you have a family member who can afford to put you up, yes, indeed, $60K a job plus a roommate. There you go, $60K a job plus a roommate. Yeah. Thank you, Troy. Yeah, it's about $60,000 plus a roommate. Yeah. Well, it depends on where you go. I mean, again, I would say, again, for rent, you're looking at about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Now, right now, it's about to live in a condo or live in a apartment space is about $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Now, right now. In this city, yes. So, and again, so that's why I say the 50, 60K region, I would say 60K. The 60K region, you can live amongst yourself. Now, if you have a roommate, even better. That allows you to limit expenses. But it's a problem. I'm just checking on my YouTube here to see if there's any comments available here. Yeah. Nothing. Well, anyways, if you are on YouTube, we are live on YouTube. So do get in touch with us and join us here. But again, it is a bit of an issue. It is a bit of an issue, guys, and there's no word of a lie about it. No word of a lie about it. And again, so it's about 45 grand a month. So again, bringing it full circle, let's consider this. Let's say that you don't have. Let's say that you don't want to live with friends. Let's say you don't want to live at home. Let's say you don't have the salary in order to live on your own. If you don't earn 60 to 70K a year to live outside, to live on your own at home, guess what? We all need each other. So it's marriage and living in and being involved in a relationship that allows for people to live together is more important than ever. Relationships are key nowadays. In Toronto, you need more than 60K to live alone. Well, there you go. Troy and I are having a debate. I would say 60 to 70K, Troy. I would say 60 to 70K myself. I would. If you take into account rent, which is about $3 grand. I mean, let me see here. Let me see if our numbers can correlate here, because I'm having a debate with Troy, and it's a good debate. So let's see if our numbers can correlate here. So we're looking at about, let's say about $2,000-$3,000 in rent. Let's say for food about $400 or $500 a month. Let's say for medical, since it's we're in a universal pay rated area. Okay, so move outside the GTA. Yes, indeed, Troy. Yes, absolutely. We had just discussed that. Maybe it's best that people move out of the city, move out of any sort of major city, not only here in the United States but around the world. Maybe it's best to move out of the city and explore at different areas just outside of the GTA. Places like, let's call Toronto. Let's say, Innisfil is becoming more expensive. Barrie's becoming more expensive. You're looking at a Timmins or or Sudbury, or a London, or Windsor. These sort of places. That's in the city, in the province of Ontario, or moving out of province, maybe moving to a Winnipeg, which is relatively inexpensive compared to Toronto, or moving towards a Saskatchewan, or moving, to Alberta, as you said. You know what I mean? So you need way more than 60K. Leslie says way more than 60K to live in single in Toronto with utilities. Yes, indeed. I would say 60 to 70. I venture to say 60 to 70. I would say 60 minimum. Yes, I would agree. Minimum 60. House insurance. Indeed, house insurance as well. We haven't even taken into account of that. I mean, that's why I say about $5,000 a month in order to live in a relatively big city of 2 to 3 million people. I would say yeah. Yeah, you're not even talking about house insurance. We're about $6,000 a month. So again, if you're on Instagram, tell me what it takes for you, say, per month to live in this city. Windsor is affordable. There you go, Troy. I just called it out. Windsor is affordable these days. Windsor is affordable if you head further outside. If you're going to London, if you're going to any of these sort of places outside of the city that are commutable, or maybe it takes a couple hours to get into the city by train. Those are the places to go nowadays. Yeah, because again, if you're looking, Burlington's getting more expensive. Niagara Falls is getting more expensive. If you go to Kingston's another place that's relatively cheap. If you head out to Kingston, which is a couple hours away, basically, if it takes a couple hours drive in order to get to that place, those may be the places you need to be right now. Those may be the places to be right now. As I said, to get to Windsor's a couple hours drive because we recently just did it. But that's without traffic. So you're looking at about 2 to 2.5 hours. So you're looking at about a 2 to 2.5 hour radius outside the city in order to live. 2 to 2.5 hour radius around outside of any big city in order to consider it affordable. That's depending on the big city you are. If you are in a major city like London, Paris, Rome, Tokyo, it may take a little longer, maybe 3 or 4 hours out. Troy say if you live in Toronto, you can get rid of the car and get to the TTC. That's what people are doing these days. Absolutely, that's exactly what people are doing these days. People are ditching their cars, ditching their car insurance, ditching any car payments, and guess what? These guys are moving towards just using public transit in order to get around. That's what happens in big cities these days. London, that's what I did when I was a student out there. I basically worked and used public transit in order to get around. But a city like London, you can get anywhere on public transit, anywhere in the city, anywhere in the Greater London area. Public transit is that good there. But is it that good here in the city of Toronto? No, it's not. It needs to be expanded, and that's what they're working on now in order to make public transit more accessible and to greater areas. But it's a huge issue for many, and a lot of people are ditching their cars. Let's say this: having a car is a luxury these days. It's a big time luxury, and it's becoming that. Because again, if all you're doing, if you paid for your car and all you have is insurance, that maybe is the best place to be at the moment. It is. It truly is. Because it doesn't pay. It doesn't allow you to pay so much out in terms of outside expenses like transport. If you take away the transportation issues, if you're paying like $100 a month in transportation, Bob's your uncle. Then that cuts down a lot of costs. But if you're paying a car payment, which is about $300 to $400 a month, if you're paying any sort of insurances, which can go up to $150 $200 a month, if you eliminated that cost, that would free up your budget that much more. But again, depends on, as Leslie said, it depends on if you have any house taxes. Depends on if you have any house insurance, any short insurances on any of your big ticket items. And, that makes things more expensive. Exactly. Makes things a lot more expensive. So, again, I'm looking at about a $4,000 or $5,000 a month issue. It's about $4,000 or $5,000 a month, which can be very, very problematic to get around, to do things and do what's necessary. Public transit in Toronto could be next week's topic. Yeah, it's a joke compared to London and Paris. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the suggestion, Troy. You're absolutely right. London and Paris public transit is, well, that's some of the best in the world. Let's face facts. If you're in a huge city, if you're in a major metropolis in this world, your public transit is usually state of the art. That means you can get anywhere at any time through that public transit. If you're in New York, the public transit is amazing. If you're in London, public transit is amazing. Paris, public transit is amazing. Tokyo, public transit is amazing. Any major city. So that allows you to live in a city, but not have to pay the expense of having a car and having these sort of things. But because again, having a car is a luxury these days. Before it used to be, par for the course. But again, we have our tastes, we have our, what we would like, and that could be an issue. But again, getting back to it, but I was sidetracked, and I thank you for the comments on Talk Live tonight. It's been a really good discussion. We need each other more than ever. And so I think it's a case of where families now are more important than ever. Families are more important nowadays more than ever. Now, if you have roommates, if you have friends, or you have people who pay you rent while you're living with family, even better. It's a joke compared to Montreal. Yeah, there you go. Montreal's slightly better public transit. Yeah, I agree. Has slightly better public transit, but it's but again, it's nowhere near the standard of major cities in and around the world, and this includes the states. The states, you know, unless you're in a major city, your public transit is virtually non-existent. As non-existent as, well, non-existent, quote unquote, as it is here. If you go to Europe, I think their public transit is a lot more advanced, to be fair. They are a lot more advanced. If you head to a place like Berlin, if you head to a place like London, Paris, if you head to a place like Rome, which is more of an historical city, it may be an issue, but I think their public transit, especially their tram transit, is way further ahead than ours here, especially in Europe. In terms of the developed world, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, I think they're starting to get a handle of things here, and they realize the public transit is key, especially living in a city like this. So, you're saying $5,000 a month, but again, getting back to the head part of my topic, to the main crux of the topic, and that is, unless you are earning $60,000 to $70,000 a year, it is debatable. Myself and Troy are debating that. Unless you're earning $60,000 to $70,000 a year, it's going to be a struggle to live in the city of Toronto. Struggle to live on your own, yes, absolutely. It's going to be a struggle to live in the city of Toronto, and I think that is where a place like Toronto with a lot of single people need to get booed up. So you talk about cuffing season. You talk about this being cuffing season, this being the time where people start getting involved in relationships and start getting together and being with one another. It may be a point where, I'm just moving myself a little bit over here. There you go. It may be a point where it is an issue. Let me just adjust this quickly. There we go. That's about it. Good. There we go. So we can sit in both places here. It may be a point where, a little further this way. Yes, perfect. It may be a point where we are dealing with a crisis where we are in need of each other in order to survive, in order to live, in order to thrive in a big city. There we go. Boom. Just adjusting my camera on YouTube here. And it is a problem, guys. It really is a problem. So, do you have that significant other? Do you have that individual to whom you can consider yourself booed up? That you can consider a lifetime relationship? You may have to consider that. You may have to consider that in this day and age where it takes about $70,000 in order to live in a big city. In a relatively big city, of a moderately big city. Yeah, it's going to take that. It's going to take that. Not just for love, but for necessity. Out of necessity, you need to do this. And that's an issue, and we have to make that abundantly clear. We need each other. You're paying $5,000, $6,000. Well, I would say $5,000. I would go $5,000. You're paying $60,000 a year in expenses, times by 12 in expenses in order to live in this city. Go figure. You need to get yourself booed up, and I would say at least booed up so you can start to live together, or to find a friend or a family in which you can carry the load, because very few of us will be able to live on our own. Very few. As things come nigh and rent controls are starting to decrease, and a lot of public housing is making way. Well, you have to make way. There is public housing, and short of you living in public housing, if you want to live on your own, then you need to have the money to do it, or you need to be in a situation that allows you to do it. Either with friends, or living with strangers, but living in a house in which everybody pays rent, or living in some sort of long-term relationship, either married or common law. Yeah. It's a necessity these days. It is. We are returning to a to a time of marriage simply because it is the most economical way of dealing with things. Think about it. Would you rather live with one you love or live with one or live with one you don't know? Maybe for some it may be that much. It may be simpler for us to live with someone they don't know. But if you plan to have kids, especially if you plan to have kids, let's go there. $5,000 a month, especially if you plan to have kids. It may be an issue. I'm going to talk to my YouTube people here. It may be an issue where you need to bring it upon yourself to. Let me just retract this down here for a second. There we go. There we go. Perfect. There we go. Just making adjustments. That's all, guys. There we go. That's my YouTube audience. Right. So it may be a point where you need to come to terms and be one to live with someone else, especially if you're having children. I don't think you can live I don't think unless you're in public housing. Unless you're in a public housing scenario, you can live in a major city, have kids, and be able to live on your own. A mother and 2 kids, or a father and 2 kids, it's a major expense. Unless you're earning at least $60,000 to $70,000 a year, this is without the kids and without government subsidy. That's a huge problem. So you need to, I think now more than ever, unless you are, unless you are supported in terms of a divorce or in terms of a settlement, yeah, there is that. But if you are living on your own, with family, with children, then there's a risk of you having to live in public housing in order to raise those kids, and if you don't choose to do that, you have to be in a committed relationship. So it's now more than ever time where you need to find family, friends, or some sort of long-term relationship in order to live. Because very few of us can earn the amount to live in a major city unless you move out. Move out of the major city. That's the only alternative. Moving to a Windsor, moving to a Saskatchewan, moving to a Nova Scotia, where cost of living is not as expensive as it is here. And a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people are choosing to live outside of province because jobs are now virtual, and you can obtain virtual jobs if you're in certain industries. Yeah. Because again, we did the math here. The math says about I didn't even take into account, as Leslie said previously, house insurance. So you're looking at about $5,000. Let's call it $5,000 a month in housing expenses. In and around that point. It can go higher, it can go lower, depending on your situation. Depending on how lucky you are. And that's a problem. That's a problem when taking into account all these things. $5,000 a month is a real possibility for some. And so you're spending about $60,000 a year in expenses just to live. So the choice is yours, whether you have a situation where you can live in a sort of one-room apartment, or an apartment that allows you to pay $2,000 to $3,000 rent, and you have a job that allows you to pay for it, or you live in a sort of house, and it's coming more in vogue these days, house shares in which everybody are strangers but everybody pays bills, or you are in a situation where you're living with family, or you're in a committed relationship. Either via marriage or via long-term relationship or via common law. Because I know of a few people who are living common law, and that's what they need to do in order to pay bills. That's what they need to do in order to keep their head above water. Sometimes it takes a marriage of convenience. Sometimes you're in a loveless marriage, but you're there for the kids, but you're there for family as well. So, all these things that need to be considered when you're living in a major city anywhere. But again, if failing which, you can always move out of that city. Just get out of there and live somewhere where it is more economical to live on your own. Either within a province or within a territory or within a state or within some sort of principality, and that allows you to some sort of prefect if you're in Japan, or outside of a major city that allows you to live economically, because it now is the time for people to do that nowadays, and people are doing that in droves. So it was just a quick discussion tonight on Talk Live. Again, we've done an hour. Shoot, I would say more than an hour. It was about an hour and a half, an hour and a quarter. So again, I thank you for joining me on Talk Live tonight. We'll be back on Tuesday night. Something a little more salacious, but I thought tonight I'll let you think about things in terms of what it takes for you to live in any major city. It's about, I would estimate about $4 to $5 grand a month, depending on your situation. It may be more, it may be less. But that's the perils of living in any sort of. It is now a peril, and it's now imperative that if you are going to live in the city, you need about 60, 70 grand a year in order to live there. And even that is not a guarantee that you can live there, as it has been pointed out on from my YouTube my YouTube group. So again, thank you for joining me on Talk Live tonight. It would be a short one. It's 10 o'clock now. We're just gonna wind up here, and we're gonna be back with you on Tuesday night. We're going Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Sorry again about the camera work, but we are looking to get that sorted out as soon as possible. I had one idea in order to sort it out, but that didn't work. So again, I am turning around, and I'm gonna have to splurge for some sort of new camera. So that is one of the first expenses that I'm going to do in order to get things done. But I still have my phone. I still have my people on Talk Live, and I thank you for joining me here. And again, I will be making changes in terms of the set, making changes in terms of the technology, and it'll make it better for the viewing public. And also, we're going to be coming out with a few other different things in order to help promote the brand and get it out there to a wider audience. So again, look forward to seeing that. But I thank you for joining me on Talk Live tonight. It was a really interesting subject.